What if the standard medical treatment for your disease is the exact poison accelerating it? Handed a terrifying death sentence, 71-year-old Gloria refused the very drug that killed her mother. Just 120 days later, she completely reversed the incurable. Here is her forbidden, life-saving blueprint. What if I told you that the piece of paper your doctor hands you, the one claiming your metabolic disease is permanent, progressive, and a one-way street to organ failure, is built on a fundamental, tragic lie? Imagine sitting in a freezing, sterile examination room, feeling the cold paper crinkle in your trembling hands. You are staring at a death sentence, watching the walls close in as a person in a white coat tells you your pancreas is dead, and the only path forward is the very drug that killed your mother. This isn't a hypothetical nightmare. This is exactly where a 71-year-old retired school teacher named Gloria found herself, trapped in the darkest corner of the modern medical machine. At Healthy Aging US warmly welcomes you to a story that the pharmaceutical industry hopes you never hear. Before we dive into the exact blueprint of how Gloria defied the medical establishment and reversed her catastrophic diagnosis, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support fuels our mission to uncover these hidden medical truths and bring life-saving, transformative videos to you every single week. Gloria's metabolic system was collapsing under the weight of a 14-year pharmacological treadmill. Her fasting blood glucose violently hovered above 200 milligrams per deciliter, and her HbA1c had skyrocketed to a catastrophic 11.2%. The physiological devastation was no longer a distant threat. It was tearing through her nervous system right then and there. Peripheral neuropathy wrapped her feet in a relentless, burning numbness, and early-stage retinopathy was silently stealing her vision, blurring the edges of her world. Then came the doctor's ultimatum, delivered with the cold detachment standard to modern allopathic medicine. Your pancreas is exhausted, Gloria. We must start exogenous insulin injections immediately. To the doctor, this was merely protocol. To Gloria, it was a terrifying echo of a trauma she carried deep in her soul. She remembered watching her own mother accept that exact same insulin prescription. What followed for her mother was not healing, but a rapid, grotesque acceleration of physical decay. Massive, hormone-driven weight gain, systemic infections from a severely suppressed immune system, and ultimately, a premature, agonizing death in a bleak nursing home. Injecting exogenous insulin into a severely insulin-resistant type 2 diabetic is akin to trying to extinguish a grease fire with a bucket of water. It doesn't put out the flames. It violently spreads the metabolic destruction to every adjacent organ. Looking her doctor dead in the eye, Gloria delivered a definitive, unshakable refusal. She demanded a 90-day probationary period. 90 days to attempt the impossible, to reverse a pathology that conventional dogma insists is a lifelong curse. Her physician reluctantly agreed, wearing a look of pity, fully expecting her to fail. But she did not fail. When Gloria returned in exactly 90 days, she didn't just improve, she shattered their medical paradigms. Her A1C plummeted from that catastrophic 11.2% to 8.1%. By the 6-month mark, it settled at a breathtaking, perfectly non-diabetic 5.9%. The burning in her feet faded into memory. Her vision sharpened. Her vitality, long drained by cellular starvation, roared back to life. To comprehend the sheer magnitude of this biological turnaround, we have to rip away the profound medical misunderstanding surrounding the A1C metric. Most patients, perhaps even you, have been led to believe that your A1C is a permanent tattoo, an unchangeable grade on your metabolic report card. It is absolutely not. It is merely a fleeting snapshot of a biological timeline. HbA1c simply measures the percentage of your red blood cells that have been glycated, literally caramelized and suffocated by excess toxic glucose in your bloodstream. Imagine a beautiful fish tank. If the water becomes highly acidic and polluted, the fish swimming in it will inevitably become sick, coated in a toxic, sticky sludge. Mainstream medicine absurdly attempts to scrub the fish while leaving them swimming in the exact same polluted water. True reversal requires changing the water. Your red blood cells operate on a strict, unyielding biological life cycle of approximately 120 days. After 4 months, your spleen acts as a master recycling center, destroying those old, stiff, sugar-coated cells and commanding your bone marrow to release fresh, pristine erythrocytes into your veins. This is your body's miraculous, built-in blood exchange. If you can maintain a purified, low-glucose bloodstream for just one 120-day cycle, the new cells will never become caramelized. The A1C drops naturally, effortlessly, because the polluted tank has finally been cleaned. Gloria didn't rely on miracles. She relied on applied biochemistry, proving that our cellular machinery is never truly broken beyond repair. It is merely waiting for us to stop suffocating it. To understand exactly how Gloria purified her biological fish tank in just 120 days, we must first uncover the invisible poison that was dirtying the water in the first place. For decades, the medical establishment has perpetuated a tragic, fundamental misunderstanding of type 2 diabetes, treating it as a disease of a failing pancreas that simply cannot produce enough insulin. But when we look through the lens of modern metabolic science, a much more sinister and entirely reversible mechanism reveals itself. Gloria's cells were not starving for insulin. They were absolutely drowning in it. Imagine packing a suitcase for a long trip. You fold your clothes, press them down, and manage to zip it shut. But then you try to force in 10 more sweaters. No matter how hard you push, the suitcase will not accept them. The clothes spill out onto the floor. This is exactly what was happening inside Gloria's body at a microscopic level. For 14 years, a relentless influx of heavily processed carbohydrates and hidden sugars forced her pancreas to pump out massive, unnatural tidal waves of insulin, desperately trying to shove glucose into her muscle and liver cells. Eventually, those cells reached their absolute maximum capacity. They became that overstuffed suitcase. To protect themselves from toxic energy overload, her cells did the only logical thing a biological system can do. They down-regulated their insulin receptors. They locked the doors. They became insulin-resistant. But the glucose kept coming. With nowhere else to go, this excess sugar backed up into her bloodstream, elevating her A1C and ravaging her delicate blood vessels. The tragedy of standard medical care is that instead of helping the patient unpack the suitcase, doctors prescribe exogenous insulin to act as a metabolic sledgehammer, violently forcing more energy into cells that are already bursting at the seams. This forces the body to convert the overflowing sugar into ectopic fat, suffocating the liver and wrapping the internal organs in a highly inflammatory, toxic sludge. Gloria's liver was fatty, her pancreas was choked by lipid deposits, and her entire system was crying out for relief. She realized, with chilling clarity, that taking more insulin would only accelerate this internal suffocation, exactly as it had done to her mother. The elevated blood sugar was never the root cause of her disease. It was merely a symptom of a profound cellular overflow. The real enemy was hyperinsulinemia, chronically high insulin levels that kept her body locked in a perpetual state of fat storage and cellular lockdown. To save her vision, her limbs, and her life, Gloria had to reverse the pressure. She had to empty the suitcase so her cells could finally breathe again. A revelation that required a total rebellion against the dietary guidelines she had trusted her entire life. Once Gloria realized her body was not broken, but simply overflowing with toxic energy, she took the radical, life-saving step of shutting off the valve that was feeding the destruction. The dietary protocol she adopted was not a temporary fad, nor was it the tragic, high-carbohydrate, low-fat deprivation diet officially recommended by diabetes associations. A diet seemingly designed to keep patients trapped in a perpetual cycle of blood sugar spikes and pharmaceutical dependence. Instead, Gloria orchestrated a masterclass in metabolic rehabilitation. She immediately and ruthlessly eliminated the three grand architects of modern chronic disease: refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and industrial seed oils. The bread, the morning oatmeal, the supposedly heart-healthy margarines, and the fruit juices were thrown into the garbage. She understood that every time she consumed these deeply processed foods, she was pouring gasoline on her internal metabolic fire, forcing her exhausted pancreas to desperately pump out more insulin. In their place, she embraced a deeply ancestral, radically simple way of eating. She transitioned to a nutrient-dense, low-carbohydrate protocol that fundamentally altered her biological fuel source. Gloria began nourishing her starved, insulin-resistant cells with high-quality, single-ingredient foods: pasture-raised eggs, fatty cuts of grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish, rich avocados, and fibrous above-ground vegetables drenched in pure olive oil. This was not about starvation. It was about biochemical signaling. By drastically lowering her carbohydrate intake, she stopped the violent glucose spikes that had terrorized her bloodstream for over a decade. For the first time in years, her pancreas was allowed to rest. The genius of her approach lay in the macronutrient shift. Fat and protein provoke a remarkably minimal insulin response compared to carbohydrates. By eating this way, Gloria was providing her brain and body with sustained, dense energy while keeping her blood insulin levels remarkably low. The first 2 weeks were a battle, as her body, long addicted to burning cheap sugar, protested the withdrawal. She felt fatigued, irritable, and plagued by cravings. But she held on to the memory of her mother's suffering, using it as an unbreakable shield against temptation. And then, the metabolic fog lifted. As her insulin levels dropped, the locked doors of her fat cells finally swung open. Her body transitioned into burning its own stored body fat for fuel. The systemic inflammation that had been burning her nervous system began to cool. The persistent, gnawing hunger that haunts every type 2 diabetic simply vanished, replaced by a profound, sustained energy that she hadn't felt since her 30s. Yet, changing what went into her body was only the beginning of her strategy. The true metabolic miracle occurred when she discovered the profound healing power of emptiness. Gloria implemented intermittent fasting, a practice that modern society views with deep suspicion, but which human biology recognizes as the ultimate mechanism for deep cellular repair. She began by simply compressing her eating window, consuming all her meals within an 8-hour time frame and allowing her body to fast for 16 continuous hours overnight. This was not a diet of caloric restriction. It was a diet of chronological discipline. During those 16 hours of physiological silence, something miraculous happened. Without a constant influx of food demanding digestion and assimilation, her baseline insulin levels plummeted to their absolute lowest point. This prolonged drop in insulin acted as a master key. unlocking the stubborn, toxic, visceral fat that had been suffocating her liver and pancreas for over a decade. By refusing to eat around the clock, Gloria engaged a brilliant biological process known as autophagy, a state where the body, in the absence of incoming nutrients, acts like a microscopic Pac-Man, hunting down and consuming old, damaged cellular debris, misfolded proteins, and the sticky, glycated sludge coating her tissues. She was literally cleansing her biological fish tank from the inside out. But she did not stop at fasting. Gloria understood that the largest reservoirs for glucose disposal in the human body are the skeletal muscles. For years, she had been sedentary, allowing those massive glucose sinks to atrophy and become highly resistant to insulin. She decided to turn her muscles into metabolic medicine. She didn't join a grueling, high-intensity boot camp. She simply started walking. Specifically, she committed to a brisk 20-minute walk immediately after her largest meal of the day. This timing was a stroke of biochemical genius. When you contract your muscles through simple, purposeful movement like walking, your muscle cells perform a magical biological bypass. They can absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream without requiring any insulin whatsoever. By walking after she ate, Gloria was manually siphoning off the glucose before it could ever build up and damage her blood vessels. The combination of intermittent fasting and postprandial movement created an unstoppable compounding effect. The fasting cleared out the ectopic fat from her internal organs, restoring her pancreas's ability to function naturally, while her newly activated leg muscles acted as a vacuum, keeping her daily blood sugar tightly regulated. She was rebuilding her metabolic machinery from the ground up, cell by single cell. Through this masterful orchestration of cellular rest, mindful nourishment, and gentle movement, Gloria didn't just escape her mother's fate. She completely shattered the illusion of chronic disease. When she walked back into that freezing, sterile examination room exactly 90 days later, she was no longer the terrified woman clutching a death sentence. She was a biological conqueror. The doctor reviewing her blood work sat in stunned silence, his eyes darting between her catastrophic baseline labs and the pristine numbers glowing on the screen before him. Her liver enzymes had normalized, her inflammatory markers had plummeted, and that terrifying 11.2% A1C, the supposed permanent tattoo of metabolic ruin, was evaporating, eventually settling at a beautiful, healthy 5.9%. He mumbled something about an anomaly, about a rare, spontaneous remission, entirely unable to comprehend that the disease he had been taught was progressive and incurable had been dismantled by a retired schoolteacher armed with nothing but dietary discipline and biochemical truth. Gloria politely declined the insulin prescription one final time, walked out of the clinic, and stepped into a vibrant, reclaimed future. Her neuropathy is gone. Her vision is pristine. At 71, she possesses the vitality and metabolic flexibility of a woman decades younger. Gloria's journey is not a miracle reserved for the chosen few. It is a profound testament to the resilient, forgiving nature of the human body. Our biological machinery desperately wants to heal. It is simply waiting for us to stop poisoning it. The pharmaceutical industry, an empire built on the infinite subscription model of chronic symptom management, thrives on the narrative that you are permanently broken. They need you to believe that your declining health is merely an unfortunate consequence of genetics or aging, best managed by an ever-expanding cocktail of costly synthetic drugs. But Gloria's story tears down that facade, exposing the life-altering truth that you hold the ultimate authority over your own health. The food you put at the end of your fork is either the slowest form of poison or the most powerful form of medicine. If you are sitting in the shadow of a terrifying diagnosis, feeling the weight of a supposedly incurable metabolic disease, let Gloria's defiance be your blueprint. You are not a victim of a failing body, and your A1C is not a life sentence. It is time to change the water in your tank. It is time to reclaim your medical sovereignty. Thank you for walking this profound journey with @HealthyAgingUS. If this story ignited a fire within you, please subscribe, share this truth with someone who needs it, and join us next week as we continue to tear down the walls of medical dogma, one life-saving story at a time. Gloria's triumphant journey from the brink of metabolic ruin to vibrant health serves as a powerful testament to the human body's remarkable capacity for self-healing. For decades, the mainstream medical narrative has convinced millions that type 2 diabetes is an irreversible, progressive decline requiring lifelong pharmaceutical intervention. Gloria dismantled this dangerous dogma by understanding the true nature of her condition. Her cells were not starving for insulin, but rather overflowing with toxic energy. By recognizing this cellular suffocation, she orchestrated a masterclass in metabolic rehabilitation. Instead of masking the symptoms with exogenous insulin, she addressed the root cause. She ruthlessly eliminated processed carbohydrates, added sugars, and industrial seed oils, replacing them with nutrient-dense, single-ingredient foods that kept her insulin levels low. She compounded this nutritional rebellion with the profound healing silence of intermittent fasting, allowing her body to clear out ectopic fat and engage in deep cellular repair through autophagy. Finally, by incorporating brisk walks after meals, she utilized her muscles as a metabolic vacuum to naturally siphon off excess blood glucose. Gloria didn't just reverse her terrifying A1C, she reclaimed her medical sovereignty. Her story proves that chronic disease does not have to be a permanent life sentence. The human body is not inherently broken, it simply requires the right environment to heal. By changing the input, silencing the constant digestive demands, and moving with purpose, anyone can rewrite their health destiny and step out from the shadow of chronic illness. Your body is not fundamentally broken, nor is it betraying you. It is simply adapting to a toxic environment. Chronic conditions like type 2 diabetes are often not a destiny of inevitable decline, but rather a severe warning sign of cellular overflow. True healing cannot come from simply masking symptoms with more medication while continuing the dietary habits that caused the disease. The ultimate authority over your health does not reside in a prescription pad, but at the end of your fork and in the daily rhythm of your lifestyle choices. Audit your fuel. Take a hard look at your pantry. Drastically reduce highly processed carbohydrates, hidden sugars, and industrial seed oils. Replace them with whole, nutrient-dense foods, quality proteins, healthy fats, and fibrous vegetables to prevent violent blood sugar spikes and give your pancreas a rest. Embrace physiological silence. Stop eating around the clock. Implement a gentle, intermittent fasting routine, such as finishing your last meal by 7 p.m. and waiting to eat until 11 a.m. the next day. This 16-hour window of fasting allows your baseline insulin to drop, unlocking fat stores and triggering cellular cleanup. Use muscle as medicine. You do not need to run marathons to heal your metabolism. Commit to a simple, brisk 20-minute walk immediately after your largest meal of the day. This forces your active muscles to absorb glucose directly from your bloodstream, naturally lowering your blood sugar without requiring insulin. Question for you. What is one small, healthy change you can make to your daily meals or routine starting today? Please kindly share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to read your perspective, and your ideas might just inspire someone else in our community to take charge of their health. If this story resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button. Your support gives us the incredible motivation to keep tearing down medical dogma and bringing you more powerful, life-saving content.